Good morning. Very good morning. Pleasant good morning to you all. Welcome to another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption in Incompetence. Today is Wednesday, the 13th of April, in the year of our Lord 2022. And yes, we're on again. We're on again. You know the drill by now. Let's share the live. Let's share the live. Let's make sure that we advise, let's inform persons that the show is on again today. The program is on. I'm ready and raring to go, and I hope you are as well. So, normally I'm very prompt. So at 11 o'clock on the dot, I went live. I know we'll have to give some people a little time to join us. I note that the live viewers are building up. So let's give them some time. Let's give them some opportunity to log on, to let them know that we're on, and we're not going to go into the substantive issues until such time that they are on. So share the stream, share the live stream, call a friend, tell a friend, let them know that Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence is on today. So let's give them some time to join us. Let's give them some time to join us. And you know what we will normally do as we go into the preamble, we like to, one, share the stream, share on whatever platform you have, let people know that we're on. And secondly, we always like to take the opportunity to give thanks to the Almighty for allowing us the opportunity to be here another day in the land of the living, to be a part of this live stream, and to be a part of life and to celebrate life. So praise and thanks. Let's give praise and thanks to the Almighty. I continue to tell you, and I know the believers know this, that there's nothing, we can't do anything without him. So had it not been for him, we would not have been here this morning to partake or to be a part of this program. So share the stream, give thanks and praise to the Almighty for allowing us to be here this morning. Share, and share. Don't be stingy. Don't be selfish. We are preambling, and we are going to be ready to get going in a short while. In the notice that I circulated, I indicated that today I'll deal with the subject of police discipline. And I'll talk about police discipline as we go into the program properly. But continue to share. I note that the viewership is building up. So continue to share. To those who have been saying to me, good morning, and good morning to you all viewers, good morning to you all listeners. And I thank you for your attention. I thank you for your support. The support that I have gotten for this program has been overwhelming. People have been calling me, people have been wishing me well, people have been even making suggestions on the way forward for this program. So the very subject that I decided to touch on today, I did indicate before that members of the force in particular have been asking me to touch on this very subject, because I think they have said that they have been getting conflicting information, conflicting instructions, and they have asked me to touch on police discipline, especially as it relates to the provisions of the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 1701. So I'll deal with some of the issues this morning. So continue to share the live stream, and we are going to get going in a short while. Now, as I indicated, we need to give thanks and praise to the Almighty for being in the land of the living. My colleagues say to me that with all the death announcements, all the announcements of deaths that I've been doing, maybe I'll run off those popular TV programs. But when someone passes, it behoves us to make sure that we inform persons about it. This time around, there's not a member of the force that I wish to announce the passing of, but is a prominent Guyanese. I refer to Mr. Henry Rodney, who was well-known actor, comedian, and he was a real all-rounder. And the reason why I am mentioning Henry this morning, because he's a fellow villager. We are both from the village of BV, Bedford-Wacton, on the east coast of Demerara. So we are countrymen. We grew up in the same community, And I think a few days ago, it was sadly announced that Henry has passed. I think he was in the United States when he passed. And condolences to Henry's family, his friends, his art, the people who were with him in drama and art. And I think the country has lost a great son in Henry Rodney. This morning I listened to Dr. David Hines, and he was recounting some of the things that Henry was involved in, and I didn't even know some of those things. He reminded us that Henry was an actor. He mentioned the films that Henry acted in. Henry was everything. He a poet. We know when you have those shows at the National Cultural Center, whatever the show was, the show would not be the same without Henry there. And I recall we had a function at the community center some years ago, and Henry came there to do a presentation, and he had us all cracking up because as a countryman, as a fellow villager, he related to some of the incidents that occurred in the village that we could have all related to, and it was a very hilarious occasion. So to his brothers, his sisters, his relatives, his friends, his colleagues, condolences on his passing. So that is that for Henry. Now let me move into the program this morning. You know, I have been following up on certain issues every week. And you may recall that some time ago, there was a big story in the media. I commented on it on this program, where a young lady on the east coast of Demerara made a report to the police that she was raped. And following our interaction with the police, and it was alleged that during the course of the interview, she was interviewed in the presence of the accused person, interviewed in the presence of her mother. She was so embarrassed and so traumatized by that interaction with the police that she went home and she committed suicide. At the time, the police gave a release to say that the matter was going to be investigated. The circumstances of the investigation, which led to her suicide, would be investigated by the Office of Professional Responsibility. That was a statement made, and I guess we were all looking out or looking forward to see where that would go. I hadn't much expectation, and then we did not hear anything. And lo and behold, last week, I think it was on the 6th, there's an article in Stabrook News which states that the police, let me read something here, what the article said. The article actually said that a cop was charged with negligence, but case was thrown out as charge declared bad in law. So what they're saying is that following the investigation of the Office of Professional Responsibility, I suspect a report would have been sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions. They did not say that, but given the sequence of events and given my experience in how these things go, a file would have been prepared, a file would have been sent. A policeman was identified as being negligent. That is what the article is saying. And he was charged criminally. That is what the article is suggesting. And they're saying that the charge was thrown out by the court as being bad in law. The charge was thrown out because it was said whatever charge was laid before the magistrate was bad in law. Now, the question therefore is, why are we surprised when people do not express confidence in police investigating report against police? And what struck me with this matter is that during the course of things, one can reasonably expect a matter like this to drag on for a little while, but this matter has already been completed. Investigation finished, charge laid, person appeared before the court. I suspect once they appeared, submissions might have been made, and the matter was thrown out as being bad in law. So what next? What next? So it appears to me that from all intent, because I've said the Office of the Police Corporate Communication Unit, I'm not aware that they have issued any statement in relation to this matter. Apart from the initial statement to say that the matter is being investigated, I am not aware that any other statement was issued. So the question is, what happens now? I know from experience in some matters where a matter is struck out for whatever reason at the magistrate court, the normal procedure is for the file to be sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions for them to review. And having reviewed the file, then they might direct a certain course of action. There has been lots of controversy relating to that, in that people would say that once the matter has been thrown out of the court, that should be the end of it. But I am aware that in matters where matters have been thrown out, the file goes to the DPP, and then the DPP will instruct for disciplinary action to be taken against the rank involved. Now, the thing is that people will say, well, that perhaps is double jeopardy. It is double jeopardy. In other words, the matter went before the magistrate, matter is thrown out, you should not institute charge departmentally in respect to the same matter. A lot of controversy surrounds that, but I know the practice has been for that matters like those to now take on a departmental arrangement where persons are charged departmentally. I said it is very controversial, but I think we need to be advised by the Corporate Communication Unit. What is the position with this matter? I would like to know what is the position. I'm sure members of the public would like to know. I'm sure members of the family of the victim, the young lady who committed suicide, will want to know what next. What next? We have a reasonable expectation to be told what now becomes of this matter. So I thought I'll bring that to attention because, you know, as I've said before, many of these matters at the time they come up, as we say, hot and sweaty. It's there in the public domain. It's on social media. It's in the mainstream media. And after a few mornings, nothing. And apparently, this is exactly what is likely to happen to this matter. Because I am saying this, had it not been for the article in Stabrook News, I would not have known, many persons perhaps would not have known that this matter had taken on this dimension where a person was charged with negligence. I would love to see the particulars of that charge, you know, as a former senior police officer. And I think it should interest us to know what were the particulars of the charge. In other words, what was the negligent, what were the negligent being, or what was the negligent being, the person being accused of. It might be very interesting for us to see that. So that is one of the opening things I want to talk about. And next one I want to talk about, again, I noted that the traffic chief, remember I told you all I was a traffic chief, you know, on 2 occasions. So when I see these things, I am compelled to make comments. And I've said before that when I make comments, I am not attempting to run down or to denigrate anyone. These things are done so that people can look at what is being said and take the comment in the vein it was intended. And I refer you specifically to a statement allegedly made by the traffic chief that I think they are going to be, the concern was expressed about vendors and other persons at intersections in the city, vendors plying the trade. I know you drive around, you see people selling water, people selling other trinkets at the intersections. And they are also sometimes, there are many beggars at these intersections, amputees, the elderly people, sometimes even children, they're begging. It is a source of concern indeed. But when I read that the traffic chief is indicating that they intend to take action against these people, I want to wonder where the priorities lie, because from what we read in the newspaper, what we see on social media, from our own experience, there's lawlessness on the roads of Guyana. People driving as if they're crazy, fatal accidents, West Demerara, East Bank, all over. I don't know that vendors or these people are begging is a source of fatal or other accidents in the intersections. I know, as I've said before, they can be a little, what we would say, a little botheration. They're a source of worry. But if we are going to direct our energies towards these people, as against directing it towards the lawlessness that result in the loss of lives, damage to property, loss of limbs, something got to be wrong. Something must be wrong in the way we are thinking. Because I would expect that given what is going on the road, focus will be on the drivers, and other categories of road users. People using these roads so recklessly, one would think that that will be the focus. That will be the focus. Speeding, talking about driving under the influence of alcohol. Things like one of my pet peeve, undertaking, meaning that you should, according to the motor vehicle and road traffic regulations, I think it's section 40 or something like that, you ought to drive, you must drive on the left or near side of the road. That is no to driving lanes. So on the East Coast or the East Bank, where you have a dual carriageway, 2 lanes going in one direction, 2 lanes going in the other, people don't know or don't care to abide by it, that you should stick to the left or near side. And only when you're ready to overtake, then you come out on the right side, as we would say, and you overtake, and then you get back into the left lane. That is my pet peeve. People sit down in the right lane, not the near side lane, the other lane, and in many cases, they are driving within the speed limit. So they're not exceeding the speed limit, but they are perhaps not aware that they should drive on the left or near side of the road. So it forces people now to undertake. In other words, instead of passing on the right side, you have to pass on the left side. And it's a very, very dangerous thing. Because I suspect that when you're passing on the left side, which you should not do, and then something should happen and the driver pulls over to your side, then you get into an accident and you can be deemed to be liable because you're attempting to pass on the wrong side of the vehicle. So I would appeal to the people in traffic to make sure that you focus on the things that are going to impact on the accidents, fatal and other accidents on the road. And that is the manner in which people drive at high speeds. And only police vehicles as well, police vehicles, people drive anyhow in this place. People drive anyhow. And I will appeal to the traffic, to the resources that you have might best be used to address those pressing issues. So please, Mr. Traffic Chief, please. Now, we are into, this week is the most perhaps sacred holy week in the Christian calendar. Today being Wednesday, tomorrow is Holy Thursday. Then we have Good Friday. The day when Christians will tell you Christ gave up his life to save all of us. The most holy day in the Christian calendar. Good Friday, to me, Good Friday has always been one of mixed emotions. As a little boy, small boy, you have to pace your kite. And you have to go to church. And Good Friday church service was a very long church service. So you're in the church, and all you can think about is the kite that you have to pace. That's all you're thinking about. And in my youthful days, this was a time when I made a little hustle because I used to sell kites. Yeah, I was a hustler as a youth man. I used to make kites and I used to sell them. So I had lots of orders. The orders are there. This body want a star point, singing engine star point, a star point spinning wheel, and they want different kinds of kite that they would come and they would place the order. So I'm always anxious to get out of the Good Friday church service to get to do the little hustle and to make the kite. And in those days, let me tell you, the kites that we made were not this Chinese thing and this box kite, rail kite. As I said, singing engine, Star Point was the most popular. Bear Star Point or Star Point spinning wheel. And it was you have to exercise a lot of patience in pacing those kites. Lots of patience. You make the frame, then you did the artwork with the thread, what we used to call it patron. You make the designs, and then you have to sit and paste. But before you paste, you have to get your kite paper and you have to get your gamma cherry. You have to get your gamma cherry to do the pasting with. Because in my youthful days, you had cellophane kites, and then you had what you call the Barbados kite paper. But the real thing was that thin original kite paper that you paste with the gamma cherry. So I always remember Good Friday with that Lamb's church service. And another aggravating thing about Good Friday is that no meat, no rank, as they say, no rank. So you couldn't eat, I think it was still after 6 o'clock. And you're there basically starving, you eat crossbuns lunch, and you have to wait until after 6 before you could get something real solid. And who can recall the physic nut tree on Good Friday? Let me see the comments. Who can recall physic nut tree on Good Friday? What did they say about physic nut tree? Let me hear you. Let me see the comments to see if any one of you can remember or what they said about physic nut tree on Good Friday. I'm giving you a little chance to comment on it. Physic nut tree on Good Friday. This is what some might say old wives' tale, whatever it is. Whatever it is. What they said, I think it was 3 o'clock or 12 o'clock on Good Friday, that if you cut a physic nut tree, it bled human blood. That was the tale. So you could imagine the small boys. You go around looking for a physic nut tree, and you cut it at 12 o'clock to see what will happen. And the laugh was, of course, there was no blood. So then people will tell you, well, because you missed the 12 o'clock, it had to be 12 o'clock on the dot. And if it did not bleed, it was because you missed the timings. So those were the days. And then, of course, kite flying time. Big thing on Easter Monday, kite flying, all the open spaces. And I want to take this opportunity to caution all of us that as you go about flying your kites this Easter Monday, well, not even Easter Monday, because kite flying will start even before then. Be careful. Be careful. Fly your kite in open spaces. I am aware that over the past 2 years, 2020, 2021, a very limited kite flying activity. And those of us know that kite flying in Guyana is one of the biggest occasions, the old seawall. Thousands and thousands of kites, all kind of competition, largest kites, and all of that. So it brings back some memory with me with making the loops. I don't know how many of you know these things. You got to make the loop, or when you make the kite with the loop, you ask the person to indicate whether they want mountain loop, whether they want pulling loop, and the loop is the design of the thread or design to make to fasten or to hook the reel of thread or whatever you have to make the kite to go up. So they had a special design with that, which says that it will mount, it will go up at an acute angle, or in some cases it pulls based on the wind. And who can remember what is salt bread in relation to kite? What is salt? We're going back to the old days salt bread. There your kite, your old man come crying down the road, your kite salt bread, or your kite cut and it gone astray. You can't get it back and all of that. And of course, you had the wicked boys. I must admit, I was a part of that group where you will put your kite up and you will then put a razor blade on the tail. And the tail had to be of a particular length, which allows it to pitch. And then in pitching, what happens, it cuts out the thread of the other people kite. All of those fun with us. But salt bread in the country, Salbed refers to the fact that your kite cut and it went into the trench. Or in raising it, you don't have enough tail in it, so it pitched and it gone in to the trench. And as a little boy, see little boy coming down the road, he cried. He said that the kite saw bread. It means that it went into the water. And of course, once it gets into the water with the type of paper that you use to paste it, it was no longer any good. You have to thing. And then the next thing about kites that cut, when a kite cut, you see the kite cut it going down you can see, you look up in the air, you realize the kite cut, it's sailing going down. And it used to be a race to see who can first reach to where the kite would land, because that will now become yours. So Easter is a very significant, not only in terms of the occasion, the Christian significance, but for us small boys in those days, we made our kites, we fly the kites, and of course, not only on Easter Monday, as I indicated earlier, but it was a joyous occasion to be there flying your kites for weeks. Because I know from the time Christmas finished in those days, it was kite season and you fly the kite. So I just want to reflect on those things and encourage you to be there with your baskets and to enjoy, but do it in a very safe way. And remember too that COVID is still with us. COVID is still, so as much as you can follow the guidelines, please do so, because we don't want to hear next week or down the road, we had some super spreader event, and then the numbers start to go back up again. So let's make sure that we fly our kite and we do so safely, not only in terms of being away from the live electric wires, but also in terms of our interaction and safety with others. So those are some of the things I want to start us off all this morning. Now let's deal with the main subject that I promised to deal with, police discipline. I have said before that one of the big problems in the force right now is a breakdown in police discipline. I mean, it cannot be disputed, successfully disputed. There has been a breakdown in discipline in the Guyana police force. That is what has led and is leading to lots and lots of issues. People break down. And one of the breakdown is because disciplinary action is not taken against ranks when they default. Ranks commit a breach, whatever the breach is, disciplinary action is not taken against them, so they continue. If you're not going to be held to account, if you're not going to be brought to books, it's a natural human thing to just continue doing what you want to do. As we say, you do your own thing. Now, there is the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 1701, which speaks to how disciplinary matters should be dealt with in the Guyana police force. It lays out everything that should take place. The problem is many of the officers and other ranks are not familiar with the provisions of the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 17:01. Back in the day, when I was in the force, from the time I was a young officer, you were trained to deal with disciplinary matters. In the first instance, you were trained to investigate. Then when you became an officer, you were trained to conduct disciplinary inquiries. So when a person is charged, you appear before you, go through the process. Will I try to walk through to enlighten the policemen in particular who are on the program. And as there's nothing confidential, there's nothing secret that I will tell you about. So don't believe that because I'm going to be saying these things, I am revealing anything that is confidential. It is not, this is not confidential. And I've said many members of the force have been reaching out to me over the past weeks and have been asking me to address specific issues relating to police discipline and the Police Discipline Act. Back in the day, before I was persona non grata, I used to be one of the main facilitators. I used to be invited by the police administration to do lectures or to run seminars with officers and other ranks dealing with police discipline, dealing with the Police Discipline Act, what should happen. But now, I am not going to be invited. And even if I am invited, I am not sure that I want to be a part of what is going on. It's not being selfish. This is not being selfish and trying to deny people the opportunity to learn. I like to share, I like to teach. And that is why I'm going to be dealing with the subject this morning in an effort to teach and enlighten those who want to be enlightened. So let's first talk about it. Well, my background in it, apart from that, I being a person at the police headquarters there at the TSU over the years, I tried hundreds of cases. And there, I'm not only talking about cases where persons come before you plead not guilty, which is very straightforward. Complex cases where people are charged for neglect, people are charged for all manner of things. I used to be one of the main persons inquiring into those matters. So I've built up some experience over the years in dealing with police disciplinary matters. I've been a facilitator on it. And I know many of the officers and other ranks in the force recognize that I know something about it, and I suspect that is why they were reaching out. Now, let me deal with the first part of it. We talk about allegations. Allegations are going to be made against ranks all the time. That's the nature of the police work. Not only allegations being made by members of the public, but allegations are being made too by subordinates, by subordinate officers, and even subordinate against their supervisors. So it's not only members of the public complaining about perhaps neglect of duty, perhaps assault by members of the force. You have other issues relating to other allegations that have to be investigated. Now, once an allegation is made, whatever the nature of the allegation, the Police Discipline Act says that the allegation must be investigated. Quite rightly, allegation is made, an allegation is just an allegation. The allegation should be investigated. Now, the Act goes on to say who or the rank that can investigate an offense against discipline. And this is part of the problems. And I'll explain to you in detail. As you said, school calling. Now, once the allegation is made, the Act says, and it's section 5.3. For those who of you inquiring mind, make your note, go and check. You know, I always tell you, don't take whatever I say as gospel. Make your note and go and do your own inquiry. Go and do your own research. So 5.3 of the Act says that once an allegation is made against that a rank has committed an offense against discipline, it shall be investigated as soon as practicable. That has its own connotations. As soon as practicable, it should be investigated. And it goes on to say that before the investigation can commence, the rank against whom the allegation is made has to be served with what we call a breach of discipline notice. In other words, the person has to be informed that this investigation is going to be conducted. And more than that, it goes on to say the same section 5.3. It says who can conduct an investigation. It says that in order for you to conduct a disciplinary investigation, you must be of the rank of sergeant. So let's get that straight. Before you can conduct an investigation into a breach of discipline, you must be of or above the rank of sergeant. And in any event, it goes on to say, you must be above the rank of the person who is alleged to have committed the offense against discipline. Let me break that down. That's school calling. If a constable is alleged to have committed an offense, from a sergeant up can investigate. Lance corporal, same thing. Corporal, same thing. Now, if a sergeant is alleged to have committed an offense, a sergeant cannot conduct the investigation. It has to be from an inspector up. If an inspector is alleged to have committed an offense against discipline, another inspector cannot. It has to be from a chief inspector, because the chief inspector rank is higher than the inspector rank. And that is what the law says. You must be of an higher rank than the person who is alleged to have committed the offense in order for you to be able to investigate. So you serve the person with the notice and you commence the investigation. That is what the law says. Now, the problem here that was very evident over the years, I referred earlier to the Office of Professional Responsibility, a unit within the Guyana Police Force. Now, they have been in grave violation of the provisions of Section 5.3 of this Act. So that office, OPR, is staffed by members of the force of different rank, including constables, including corporals. And allegations are made against ranks, and they are allowed to investigate. Constable investigating, corporal investigating, and you have situations, I know of cases where constable and corporal even investigating senior officers. And when I used to be at the Police Service Commission, we had a lengthy discussion on this, and I was asked to write to the administration of the force, which I did. And then I had an interaction with the senior management, they call it the executive leadership, where I point out to them the violations by the Office of Professional Responsibility. At the time, it was headed by the late my squaddy, Makalal, that you cannot have constables investigating, and in the case of officers, you can't even commence an investigation, and I'll explain that a little while. So they were investigating. You have constables investigating, and you have corporals investigating. The law does not allow for that. And here, what is it? And I pointed out to them, and I'm saying this to you again. We're talking here about an allegation of a breach of discipline. The law 1701, Police Discipline Act 1701, talks about discipline. So if it's an allegation that a person neglected his duty, that is a discipline, clearly a breach of discipline. Is that a criminal offense? If it's a criminal allegation, then anyone, I have pointed out before, anyone can investigate a criminal allegation. So if a person goes to the Office of Professional Responsibility and alleges that an officer assaulted him, then anybody can investigate that, because that is not a disciplinary complaint. That's a complaint of a criminal allegation in nature. But what happens, and this again is to enlighten you, what happens in many cases, a person might make an allegation about a criminal offense, assault, most common. This body assaulted me. Sent to OPR to investigate. Nothing wrong, because the allegation is one of is criminal in nature. So nothing is wrong with that. Now, what happens then, when the investigation is completed, a report is submitted to in most cases, the Director of Public Prosecutions for advice as to how to proceed. Now, on many occasions, having reviewed the file with all the statements, the DPP might decide not to proceed, but to recommend that departmental action should be taken against the rank involved. And there was a rank, we talk about even officer, not only junior ranks, but even people at the gazetted level. They might recommend that disciplinary action should be taken. Remember, the investigation started out as criminal. But when the DPP reviewed, the DPP said, well, look, don't charge and put before the court. Deal with it departmentally. Now, at that stage, the provisions of the Police Discipline Act have to kick in. And again, I know that there are controversies surrounding this, because what happens? Because what will happen there, let me say it's an inspector who is the person that was investigated by OPR. Then the DPP says, proceed departmentally. Now, at that stage, the practice has been, you have to now depute someone above the rank of the inspector to conduct the disciplinary investigation. Now, most times, the documents that are going to be used are the same documents, statements, and other documents that were acquired during the earlier investigation, the early criminal investigations. The criminal investigation, and people complain, well, no investigation. Again, those are very technical issues, but I'm guiding you as to what the process, what the procedure is. So once an allegation is made, a notice is served, the investigation is conducted. You conduct the investigation. After the investigation has been conducted, you might get to the stage where the rank is to be charged. So we deal with the investigation. who can conduct an investigation. And let me say this, because this is one of the excuses the Office of Professional Responsibility used in the past in relation to constables and corporals. They'll say, well, they are not the investigators, they are only assisting. Provisions are not made for any junior rank to assist. So from the time, what do you do during the course of an investigation? You take statements and you interview persons. So it's disingenuous to say a constable who's taking statement and interviewing persons is not conducting an investigation, he's just assisting. No. That is wrong. That should not be allowed. And I can tell you this, again, without letting tales out of school, that in every one of those cases, once a submission is made, people make submission, well, look, I'm a inspector, and this matter was investigated by some sergeant at the Office of the Professional Responsibility, or another inspector at the Office of Professional Responsibility in clear violation of the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 1701. And once you review that, the matter is struck out because it's an egregious violation of the rights of the person, right? Somebody has asked me to who can represent. I'll deal with that in a short. I'll have that listed to deal with as well. So you understand that there's no provision under the Act for any people to assist. If you're investigating, you have to be of a particular rank, and that is what the law says. Specifically, 5.1 of Chapter 1701 says who can investigate. So please, let's get that clear. And these things are there, in black and white. And I want to say this before I move on, that Police Discipline Act Chapter 1701, every single member of the force should make sure that you have a copy. Every single member of the force. I have a copy, and the copy that I have, and I show it wasn't the one of those that I have, as me signing or autographing it as sergeant. So that is how long I had that. And I am sure that that is not the first one that I've had. You must have these things. And not only because maybe you want to be an investigator, or when you become an officer, you want to be someone who could conduct an inquiry, but you want to make sure that if you are accused of any disciplinary breach, you can adequately represent yourself. And that is what is lacking in many, many cases. I have seen, as I referred to some time ago, a case where a sergeant is cowboyed, is convicted, and fined 1 day's pay when there's absolutely no evidence. And the man left it at that. He left it at that. So I'm saying that you need to know how to represent yourself if an allegation is made against you. So we deal with the investigation and who can investigate. Now let me deal with the charge itself. Now once you investigate, now there's a long process. I'm going to cut through all of these small things where the report has to go and the officer. I have issues with that, and I'll discuss it at a later time. The person, the officer in charge of the division or the branch, okaying the charge, and it gets to the point where a disciplinary charge is issued to the rank who is alleged to have committed offense against discipline. Charge sheet, Form 830. Some police will tell you charge sheet is part of your kit. So you need to have, getting a charge sheet is nothing wrong. People say, I don't agree with that, because a charge sheet can affect your upward mobility in the organization, especially if you're a cowboy, especially if you have some vindictive, self-serving commander who decides that he's going to convict you. Because I can tell you here and now, at the police administration level and at the service commission level, that once you have a disciplinary conviction, you are not eligible to be considered for promotion within 2 years. So it operates, it's there against you for 2 years. So don't go about with this nonsense about charge sheet is part of your kit and all of that. I know that what goes on, sometimes you get charged through vindictiveness. But I'm saying to you that when that happens, you ought to be able to represent yourself adequately. And if you represent yourself adequately, the system is of such that you ought to be you should be vindicated. So you're served with a charge sheet, Form 830. Charge sheet spells out the statement of the offense. The statement of the offense refers to the section that you're alleged to have violated. So, for example, if you are alleged to be absent from duty, it says, and I remember these things, all of the years. I remember schooling. Take out your book. Say, well, if you're alleged to be absent from duty, it will say the statement absent from duty, contrary to Section 4N of the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 17:01. That is the statement of the offense. And you will note that the statement or the section dealing with absent is also the same section dealing with late for duty. So people ask the question, what is the difference between absent and late? I mean, if I were in a face-to-face class, I would have asked, what is the difference between absent and being late? I used to ask the class that, and they come up and they say, well, because let me say this. You are rostered to perform duty from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And for some reason, instead of coming at 8, you're coming at 12. Some people will charge you for being absent from duty between 8 and 12. And some people will say that you are late for duty in that you should have reported for duty at 8 o'clock and you report for duty at 12 o'clock instead. The same section, Section 4N. But generally, when you talk about a person being absent from duty, you're talking about one who has failed to report for the entire shift. So it will be, I am saying it will be wrong that if the person comes in later the day, that you're charging him for absent instead of late. Because, in terms of when the time comes for punishment to be awarded, that will be considered whether it was late or whether the person was absent. And as you would understand, as you would come to expect, that if a person is late, that is less serious than if a person is absent from duty. So that is a statement of offense. Then you go into the particulars, which will say exactly what is being accused. That you should have reported for duty at a particular place between 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock on a particular date, and you are absent from duty. So it's the particulars, that's the particulars, that is there on the charge sheet, the Form 830. 830, I'm not going to tell you about the name of the person, the rank of the person, and all of that is there. Now, one of the things I was asked to comment on is the other aspect on the front of the charge sheet, apart from the date the charge was served and all of that, is what we call the endorsement. On the front of the charge, there is what is called the endorsement. Now, let me explain the endorsement to you. Now, first of all, back in the day, the endorsement on these charges was not something automatic. An endorsement should only be on a charge that warrants dismissal or reduction in rank. I'll explain that in more detail as we go along. Because again, it is not as straightforward as that. But generally, if the charge is serious enough to warrant dismissal from the force or reduction in rank, you get boss, your corporal, your town constable, or so you get boss, then it should be endorsed. Now, what the endorsement says, basically the endorsement warns the person who is charged, and the person who is charged according to the law is referred to as a defaulter. In the police discipline, you don't deal about defendant and accused person. No, the person is referred to as a defaulter. You don't talk about prosecutor. The person who prosecutes the matter is referred to as the presenting officer. That's what the law says. Those are the terms defined in the law. This is not me. Read it up, man. Read 1701. Go and get your and read. Now, the endorsement warns the rank. It says basically that you are hereby warned that if you are found guilty of this charge, your dismissal from the force may be considered. And then it goes on to say, this in no way means that the charge has been prejudged. Let me go that again for those of you who write in. The endorsement says, and this is an endorsement for a constable, that is slightly different once you get rank from Lance Corporal up. It says, the endorsement says, you are hereby warned that if you are found guilty of this charge, your dismissal from the force may be considered. And then it goes on to say that this in no way means that the charge has been prejudged. That's the endorsement. Now, for a constable, now from the time you get your yam skin, whether it's one stripe, two stripe, whether you're officer or you're inspector, it's slightly different because it tells you that your dismissal from the force or reduction in rank. So it goes on to say that you're hereby warned that if you're found guilty of this charge, your reduction in rank or dismissal from the force may be considered. And then the same last paragraph, this in no way means that the charge has been prejudged. So that's the endorsement. Now, what happens over the years, when you serve a charge, if you are the investigating rank and you serve the charge, because the investigating rank is the person who will usually serve the charge. So when you serve the charge, if it was a serious charge where dismissal or reduction in rank was to be considered, then the endorsement is written in on the front of the charge, and the defaulter is made to sign the endorsement. But what happened? Over the years, because of this mass production or mass producing of Form 830s, the charge sheet, they have the endorsement on the charge. Automatically, it's on the charge. And some people feel that because it is there, you have to, and the person have to be warned. No, that is not the case. That is not the case. That is not the case. The person does not have to be made to sign it if it's a person late for duty. Normally, I got to explain the little technicalities in this thing. Normally, a person late, you will not cause them to sign any endorsement because a late for duty charge should not warrant reduction in rank or dismissal from the force. So there's no need for an endorsement under normal circumstances. And I'm emphasizing that. Under normal circumstances. So what happened? When should a charge be endorsed? Somebody asked me that a while ago. Now, there are cases, now let's put it this way. According to the Police Discipline Act and precedent and rules and all of that, if a rank is absent for more than 24 hours, the rank can be deemed to have illegally withdrawn from the force and can be dismissed. If you are absent from duty for more than 24 hours, you can be deemed to have illegally withdrawn your services from the force and you can dismiss. So as a general rule, they will tell you that if a person is absent for more than 24 hours, the charge should be endorsed. Now, I know too that there were publication of force orders that if a matter is investigated by the Office of Professional Responsibility and results in a disciplinary charge, then that matter should be endorsed as well. So if OPR investigate, it should be endorsed because generally OPR investigates serious matters. Now, there are provisions as well. Let me jump to it to tell you when you can endorse for minor matters, even late for duty. I remember I said should not ordinarily, but you might have a case where a person is an habitual defaulter, bad record, always absent, always doing all manner of things. So when you look at the record, the person might have 8, 9, 10 dozens of disciplinary conviction. And therefore, some officers will instruct you to endorse the charge. So even though it is generally a minor charge, the fact that the person has a bad record, the minor charge can lead to the dismissal because you're going to take into account not only this charge, but all the previous charges. Because remember, in the courts, If a person get bad conduct, you can't take that into consideration to determine his guilt or innocence in a particular matter. So if a man is a big-time thief man, habitual thief man, he goes before the magistrate. The magistrate can't determine that he's guilty because he's a regular. He or she, the magistrate, has to determine his guilt based on the facts of that particular charge. However, once a person is found guilty of that particular charge, in determining sentence, you can take previous into consideration. The magistrate can ask for probation report and can ask for his criminal record to determine what punishment, what is the appropriate punishment for this regular. So we understand it is the same thing in the Police Discipline Act. If a person is an habitual defaulter, you can really take into consideration his past conduct in determining punishment. And there is also a provision, and this is one of the things that I was asked of me by officers not so long ago, warning letter and warning notice. Now, let me explain. Now, warning letters are, well, a warning letter is an administrative tool to correct action of your subordinate. So if a man is in your division and working, a man in your department, you feel that he's not doing the correct thing, as an administrator, as a manager, you should really, you can give him a note, write him a letter to say that, look, this is what has been observed, and you're given an opportunity to pull yourself together. So there's a warning, a letter to the person. Now, there's also a provision in the Act for person to be issued with a warning notice, which is totally different from a warning letter, because a warning notice is given after the person has been convicted. So in addition to whatever punishment is meted out, and I will deal with punishment and so as we go along, in addition to whatever punishment is meted out, the person is giving a warning notice. And the warning notice has a pro forma. And people have asked me, I can't put my hands on it, but if you check on those old files, I'm sure you can find it. Because the warning notice tells you that since joining the force on such and such a date, your conduct has been unsatisfactory. It points out the offenses. You have been convicted for this disciplinary offense, that disciplinary offense, that disciplinary offense. It points out your whole history in the force. Then it goes on to tell you that this letter serves as a warning. This letter serves as a warning. It further tells you that the officer in charge of you will be required to report on your work and conduct after 6 months. It warns you. After 6 months, the officer will be required to report on your work and conduct. And it further tells you that the further commission of any breach of discipline during this period can lead to your dismissal. That's what the warning notice says. The format is there somewhere. Some one of those old files, you must be able to pull it up. And the point here is that once you are issued with a warning notice, every disciplinary offense that you have committed since then, every charge should be endorsed, because the warning notice that you got indicated to you that the commission of any other disciplinary offense during the 6-month period that the officer has to report to you can lead to your dismissal. And I say further that you ought not to be dismissed unless you were warned. The endorsement that we talked about has to be on the charge. So that is why I brought in the little caveat to say that as a general rule, the charge is not going to be endorsed for minor offenses. But in this case, if you have been issued with a warning notice, then every charge thereafter, no matter how simple it is, should be endorsed. So that is the endorsement. Every charge should be endorsed. So that, for the people who have been inquiring about the endorsement, I hope that I have clarified. If there's anything further for me to clarify, feel free to reach out and I will clarify. Now, there are other issues to be dealt with in the discipline. Somebody asked about the defense, but that, well, people to represent you and so on. The actual inquiry, the who can represent you, fines and punishment, they always is up already. They always up, and I don't want to start it and then leave you hanging. So I will prefer to wait until next week to continue to enlighten you about this police discipline and how it should work, because there are other aspects. I've dealt with the investigation. I've dealt with part of the charge sheet, because what I've dealt with there is not all. And I can perhaps brush this quickly to say that when the charge is served on the person who's alleged to have committed the offense, known as the defaulter, the law says that you should also serve him with copies, him or her, with copies of all documents that are intended to be used at the inquiry. That too has become very controversial, because people don't understand what are documents to be served. And again, let me don't go into it now, because it's a very involved aspect of the discussion, and I don't want to leave you hanging. I don't want to start it and can't complete, and it will take more than about 10-15 minutes to really go through it in any great detail. So for those people who have been asking about the police discipline, I hope that the points or the aspects that I've dealt with this morning would have enlightened you somewhat. Reach out, continue to reach out, and I am going to be willing to share. I am willing to teach. I'm going to be willing to share with you. There are documents that I can point you to. I've pointed you already to 1701, the Police Discipline Act. There are other documents for you to read and understand. They are there. So try to get the knowledge and try again so that you defend yourself if it comes to that. I want to leave again by wishing you all the best for this most holy of season. Easter is Sunday. Now we say Easter Monday, but Easter is really on Sunday. Good Friday is on Friday. 3 days after is Easter Sunday. And I want you to, again, I hope that the Lenten season is going to come to an end. And I hope that your fasting and whatever you prayed for, you get fulfillment. And remember the reason for Easter. Christ, they say, gave his life up for all us sinners. And therefore, let's remember that. Let's celebrate the rising of the Christ on Sunday and Monday. And God's willing, next Wednesday at 11 o'clock, I will see you again. And I will continue to deal with police discipline. So for now, bye. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful Easter season. Goodbye.